By now, we all know what US did in Venezuela. Caracas attacked, Maduro arrested, and Venezuela being run by the United States. This is what at least Trump says. But one thing that might have skipped past most of our eyes amid the bombings and high-profile arrest is the doctrine Donald Trump invoked to justify attacking Venezuela and capturing Maduro. The Monroe Doctrine. The same doctrine which has been repeatedly interpreted to justify US dominance in the Western Hemisphere. Well, you don't have to worry if you don't know about the Monroe Doctrine, I will tell you. But the thing here to worry is that President Donald Trump's revival of this very doctrine may have armed China with the very justification Beijing needed to assert its expansionist ambition across the Asia-Pacific region. The doctrine's resurrection, playfully rebranded by Trump as the donroe Doctrine, establishes a dangerous precedent that legitimizes sphere of influence and also undermining Washington's moral authority to challenge Chinese aggression from the Taiwan Strait to the South China Sea. First, let's begin by understanding what Monroe Doctrine is. Articulated by President James Monroe in December 1823, declared that the Americas, which is both North and South America, were close to European colonization and that any European interference in the Western Hemisphere would be viewed as a hostile act against the United States. In fact, the doctrine establishes three core principles: opposition to new colonization, separation between the old and new worlds, and America's protection of independent Western nations. Now let's connect the dots. Trump's December 2025 national security strategy explicitly revives this 200-year-old policy, declaring that the US will reassert and enforce the Monroe Doctrine to restore American superiority in the Western Hemisphere. Trump himself has embraced the donroe Doctrine moniker, boasted that American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again after attacking Venezuela. His administration's philosophy, articulated by senior advisor Stephen Miller, is absolutely blunt. We inhabit a world that is ruled by strength, force, and power. Now, while Trump focuses on reasserting American dominance in Latin America, China, on the other hand, has systematically tried to expand its footprints across the Asia-Pacific through military intimidation, territorial encroachment, and economic coercion. In fact, throughout 2025, Beijing has conducted increasingly aggressive military exercises around Taiwan, including the Justice Mission 2025 drills that simulated a naval blockade of the island. President Xi Jinping has declared Taiwan's reunification with mainland China unstoppable, abandoning earlier rhetoric about peaceful integration. Also in the South China Sea, tensions with Philippines have escalated dramatically. Chinese Coast Guard vessels have repeatedly deployed water cannons against Filipino fishing boats, rammed Philippine naval ships, and established a de facto control over disputed shoals within Manila's exclusive economic zone. Now, these aggressive tactics mirror Beijing's broader regional strategy of using grey zone operations, coercive actions that fall below the threshold of war to expand territorial control while testing international responses. Not only militarily, but China's economic expansion through the Belt and Road Initiative, including the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, has entangled nations in what critics describe as a debt trap diplomacy. In fact, the $46 billion CPEC, which traverses in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, exemplifies how Beijing leverages infrastructure investment for strategic influence. Now, across the Indo-Pacific, 75 of the world's most vulnerable countries now face a record $22 billion in debt repayments to China in 2025 alone, giving Beijing enormous leverage over sovereign decision-making. Now, by establishing spheres of influence as legitimate instruments of great power politics, Trump has handed Xi Jinping a rhetorical as well as a strategic gift. In a world governed by strength, force, and power rather than international law, China's military encirclement of Taiwan, harassment of Philippines vessels, and debt-fueled expansion becomes not violation of the rule-based order, but simplify the natural behavior of a regional hegemon. Exactly what America claims for itself in the Western Hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine's most lasting legacy may be this: asserting American dominance at home, Washington has surrendered the moral authority to constrain Chinese dominance abroad. And for Beijing, watching from across the Pacific, Trump's revival of the 19th century imperialism could have not come at a more opportune moment, and it must be a need of worry for all.